Our next guest I consider personally to be the paragon of spooky gentleman coolness. And he's going to come out and tell you a special story. Put your hands together for the one and only Rory Revue Oct.
Good evening! My name is Rory Raven, and it's on nights like these, when Stuart's out here doing the boylesque thing, and there's the Moby Dick thing, and I sit there backstage, and I watch the other acts, and I think to myself, I was going to be an English teacher. But no, I do this instead. One of the things that I do is I do a walking tour here in Providence called the Providence Ghost Walk. It's the original Ghost and Graveyards walking tour for the haunted history of Providence. And as we move into the Halloween season, he asked me to come down here and play with your minds, but I decided this evening, in the Halloween spirit, I would tell you a spooky story. And I would tell you the Rhode Island Halloween story.
Yeah. Awesome.
In Exeter, Rhode Island, which is a little town south of here.
Suck it, Providence!
In Exeter, Rhode Island, a little town south of here with a failing public school system. Lived a family named Brown. The Brown family had several deaths occur over a fairly short period of time. The mother had died, one of the daughters named Olive had died, one of the daughters named Mercy had died, and their son Edwin starts to get sick. Now today, we recognize this as being tuberculosis, or as they would have called it back then, consumption. Consumption or tuberculosis, an infectious disease, gets into your lungs fill with fluid, you cough up blood as your lungs harden, and you get very thin and sickly and pale. You will waste away a period of months or even years before finally dying. And in the 1890s, when this happened, they called it consumption because it seemed to consume the person who was afflicted with it. But after several deaths and Edwin beginning to get sick, several people approached George Brown, the family patriarch, and they said, George, we know what the problem is. Your family is being plagued by a vampire. Now, in Exeter in the 1890s, they didn't think of a vampire as being some kind of Bela Lugosi character in evening clothes who would crawl up out of the grave and bit you on the neck. They didn't think of a vampire as being some sort of sparkly pretty boy, because no one in their right mind does. They did think of a vampire as being some kind of contagion that infected and sucked the life out of people. You need to find out where it was coming from and put a stop to it. So, bowing to public pressure, George Brown went out to the family graveyard with a doctor to look for signs of a vampire. And I'll say that part again. He goes out to the graveyard with a doctor to look for a vampire. Now, 1892 is really not that long ago for a doctor, a man of science, to be out there looking for vampires. They start to dig up the bodies of the deceased family members. That's actually the headline of the Providence Journal article that covered this on March 19, 1892. Exhumed the bodies, testing a horrible superstition in the town of Exeter. They dig up the body of the mother, she's been dead several years, not looking very threatening. They dig up the body of Olive, the first daughter to die. Also left with Olive was a skeleton and her hair, not looking very threatening. They get the body of Mercy Lena Brown. Mercy Brown was 19 years old when she died, 2 months before this happened. They open up the coffin. Her hair has gotten longer, her nails have gotten longer, her cheeks are rosy. According to one version of the story, her body is rolled over in the coffin. They decide that this is the problem corpse. They then do this thing that we only do in Rhode Island. They cut open her chest. They remove her heart. They put her heart on a nearby rock, and they set fire to it. They bring Edwin, the sick brother, over to inhale the fumes of his sister's burning heart. He's supposed to cure him of his affliction. Once the heart is completely consumed, they take the ashes of that heart, they mix it in with either water or medicine. I've heard different versions. They give this to Edwin to drink. It's supposed to protect him from further vampiric chemisados. It doesn't work. Everyone dies a couple of months later. But that is the last death in the Brown family due to tuberculosis or vampires. Michael Bell, who's a friend of mine, because these are the sort of people I hang out with, wrote a really good book called Food for the Dead, all about the New England vampire tradition. And he posits this is kind of a folk medicine explanation for tuberculosis. It tells you what the problem is, and it gives you steps to deal with it. Folklore, he says, always has an answer. And in this one case, it does seem to work, because Edmonds is the last death due to tuberculosis or vampires. Now, as you might imagine, Mercy Brown's grave is a popular stop to make this time of year. If you do go out there, though, a couple things to bear in mind. One, it is a graveyard. There are people buried there. Be nice. Two, if you do go out there, I was out there a few years ago with my friend Christopher, and people like to leave offerings on the grave. There are flowers and candles and coins. One time I was out there and there was a pumpkin on the grave, and on the pumpkin they had carved, somebody had carved, "To Mercy, you go girl," left on the grave. So you can do that, but it's a graveyard, so be nice. If you do go out there today, you'll notice that her stone is held down in place with this sort of iron collar. It's because a few years ago, the gravestone went missing around Halloween. Missing for about a week. No one knows where it was or who had it. My theory, based on very little, is that it was maybe a Halloween prop for a weird Halloween party. It was very quietly returned after being missing for about a week, and it's held down by this iron collar today. So now, if you go out there around this time of year, I have heard that since then, a Brown family descendant camps out in the graveyard around Halloween with a shotgun to make sure no one did anything stupid. That might just be a story, but I don't want you to find out the hard way. Third thing to bear in mind, if you do go out to visit Mercy Brown's grave around Halloween, please, for your sake and for mine, bring garlic.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rory.